This is a review of the ENVENTOR 10 amp circular saw. This will be used outside so that when we are working on a deck in our house, we're putting down new deck boards, replacing some bad ones, and we're also going to hang some rough sawn cedar on the house, and this saw is going to be used to cut the planks and put on the house. I'm going to go through what's in the box. Here is the saw itself. The power cord is 7 feet long. Here's the saw. Here's the blade protector. This right here is a hex that you use this wrench to remove this bolt to put blades onto the saw. Here is the laser compartment, and right here is where the batteries go. They do send you 2 batteries. I've already taken the screw out to show you how to put the batteries in. It came with the wrench. This is a guide for ripping strips of wood or plywood, for example. So you can cut it with using this guide if you put it in right. This has to go down, and now you can cut and set the cutting width, and then it sticks to that, and you can lock it down right here. The saw comes with 2 blades. They're both for wood. They got a protection on them covering the teeth of the blade so you don't cut yourself, because they are very sharp. This is a 7 1/4 inch saw blade at 24 teeth. So it's good for cutting things like decking or wet wood, very fast cuts. Here's one here that's 7 1/4 inch blade, and it has 40 teeth. And this will give you a little cleaner cut for more expensive woods and more detailed work. But they're both good blades because they're both carbide tip teeth. So they're very sharp, and they're going to stay that way for a long time. They also have these special notches here, which helps to keep the blades cool and helps to eject sawdust and things like that to get in there. When you want to put a blade on, if you look at this here, you'll see an arrow. You can see that. And then up here, you'll see an arrow on the blades. Make sure they're going the same direction. When you want to put a blade on, you have to remove this screw, and you have to stop the spindle from turning inside the saw. So you push this button right here in, and as you turn it, it'll find a place where it locks the blade, like right there. And now you can take and loosen that bolt, and then you can also put the blade on. Here you can see I've taken out that bolt and washer and a spacer. Now you can slip the blade onto there and reinstall everything. You'll notice this this washer has a funny pattern in it. It fits on that flat surface there to securely hold the blade. When you're putting a blade on, you rotate the blade safety guard all the way back using this thumb notch here. The blade's very sharp, so be careful. You can insert it in there, it drops in place. You'll take this right here and you can install. Now that I got that bolt started, you want to push that button in again to lock the blade in place. And you're going to tighten this up, and you want to make sure it's pretty tight because for safety reasons, you don't want that blade coming off at high speed. Okay, there we go. I do want to point out that it does come with a pretty good manual about how to use the saw. It also mentions that the saw has replaceable carbon brushes for the motor. It didn't come with any, so if it starts to wear out and stops working after a lot of use, you're going to have to replace those brushes. They're easily accessed from the back. You can take these screws out, replace the brushes, and it'll be like having a new saw. As I mentioned, this is where you tighten down the gauge. Here's the setting of the angle, and once you set it to the proper angle, you lock it down, and there's a scale on the side here that you can use, so you can adjust the pitch right here. On the back side here, There's a lever, it's a little bit hard to find. And this controls the cutting depth, or how low the blade is. And once you set it to the proper depth, wherever you want it, you pull this down and lock it into place. Here's the compartment where the batteries go. They came with the unit, and they snap in here, and it controls the laser. Here's the laser off-on switch, and it shoots right down the line of the saw blade, and you can see it on my hand. So when you're cutting a board, you can see the beam of light on the board to guide the saw. It helps you cut straight lines. Here you can see that this is designed to work on 120 volts, and it works on 60 hertz for North America. As I mentioned before, it's 10 amps on the motor. So make sure you use a good sized extension cord that can handle 10 amps, and you don't want it to be really, really, really long, because that's quite a bit of current. Again, it's 5,800 revolutions per minute. 7¼ inch blade, that's important, so when you buy a new blade, you get the right size diameter. It also has a cutting capacity. When it's straight up and down, you can cut through a board that's 2 7/16 thick. And you also have the ability to set it up to 45 degrees. And at 45 degrees, you can only cut through boards that are 1 13/16 thick. Here you can see where I've torn up the deck and taken out the old boards that were really bad. And we're cutting new ones to put in place. And this is, as I said, hard treated lumber. And this saw does a good job of working on it. Here you can see several cut boards and the progress we're making, and things are going well. This saw is really doing a good job in speeding the project along. Here you can see the cut, it's nice and smooth, and this is a bracing board for under the deck. Here you can see my workbench. We're cutting deck boards to put into a deck. This is extremely hard treated lumber, and this saw is making short work of it. Just so you know, I'm using the 40-tooth blade to get a nice clean cut, and the edges are nice and smooth and professional. Does a good job. I also want to point out that I'm wearing gloves, and I'm also wearing safety glasses, because it makes a big difference that you have to protect your eyes when sawing. Here you can see I have the laser on to get the saw started. I want to make sure that the blade is on line with where I want. Here you can see the laser. I use it to guide to start the saw. Then after that, I use the blade and cut on one side or the other of the line. I rate this product at 5 stars. This review is done by JJ CEO.